Assemblymember Russell will please propose your amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm proud to be moving the Green Amendment to the Mayor's draft budget today. The coronavirus pandemic has left no aspect of our lives untouched, whether by personal loss, financial hardship, or the toll on our physical and mental health. Every single Londoner has been affected. At a systemic level, the pandemic has exposed the harm of inequality, hugely stretched our budgets, and highlighted the importance of developing London's resilience to unexpected shocks. The pandemic has severely impacted the money available to the Mayor and GLA programmes, so our Green Amendment is practical, properly financed and well planned. It also has our biggest and boldest idea this term, with the allocation of £423 million, offering imaginative and constructive solutions to the challenges our city faces. Our amendment mixes small-scale interventions funded from existing reserves with larger investment plans for which we have created new income streams. My colleague Sian Berry will second the amendment and will speak to our proposals for dedicated support for young people who are homeless or sleeping rough, buying market homes to rent out to London's blue light workers, and one-off funding to help London renters groups grow. I will now speak to our proposals on providing funding to update the Zero Carbon Pathways tool to help local councils meet 2030 targets, investing in safer walking for outer London, and consulting with Londoners on plans for a fairer road charging system. So, to the points about a zero carbon city by 2030. At the heart of our amendment is the need to boost London's resilience to withstand shocks related to the climate and ecological emergencies. And nothing needs more focus than the Mayor's Zero Carbon Pathways tool. Produced 3 years ago, it shows how London can cut its carbon emissions to net zero. Yet the deadline for this to happen is still 2050. That is simply too late. In 2018, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change told the world that we only have until 2030 to get global overheating in check. 2 months later, this Assembly passed my motion urging the Mayor to declare a climate emergency, which he did. I then called on him to update the Zero Carbon Pathways tool with targets set to 2030. His response was to say that this work is taking place. I keep checking, but the published tool is still fixed on reaching net zero by 2050. Revising it would help both the Mayor and Borough Councils build new plans reflecting the urgency of the task. It would also give the Mayor and London's local authorities the evidence they need to lobby the government for further powers and support to enable the target to be met. We have funded making the Zero Carbon Pathways tool 2030 compatible with £50,000 from the Business Rates Reserve. This is prudent because of the huge financial risk represented by climate change. And now our plans for great strides for outer London. For most Londoners, one of the few highlights of lockdown is our daily dose of exercise. For some, this is simply a walk around the streets where we live. Yet many of London's streets are hostile with dangerous traffic, polluted air, and few safe places to cross the road. Some streets lack basic things like a dropped curb, which creates barriers for people pushing buggies, walking with a stick or white cane, or using a mobility scooter. And while London is one of the world's most walkable cities, it still has huge unmet potential for walking. In outer London, 1.5 million trips are made each day in vehicles which could be made on foot. And that is probably because the streets are traffic dominated and scary. We propose investing in measures making it nicer and safer to walk in outer London. We'll provide 80 individual things like zebra crossings, safe junction programmes and pavement widening schemes. These will be funded by a new revenue stream which we have uncovered. Fines for illegally parking in a bus lane or on a red route or for breaking loading restrictions have not been increased since 2011, effectively a fines freeze for London's drivers. We would raise these fines from their current level of £130 to £160 to bring them in line with a penalty for the congestion charge. Doing so will raise £20 million over the next 2 years. And we believe it is fair that penalty charges for driving, parking and loading breaches are made consistent and that these fines should go towards measures that help meet the Mayor's Vision Zero target for London. And then our plans for engaging with Londoners on the idea of road charging. There's been a huge amount of discussion recently about TfL's budget and how to fill the catastrophic drop in fares income. It is becoming increasingly clear that a system of smart, fair, privacy-friendly road pricing could provide the solution to London's congestion, pollution and funding problems. But as we move to get drivers to chip into TfL with a sophisticated upgrade to the blunt charges of the ULEZ and congestion charge, we have to take Londoners with us. Londoners must be fully consulted so any concerns can be addressed. Just last week, TfL lost their street space court case partly because they couldn't demonstrate that they had consulted with disabled people properly. That is why we have found this money in the business rates reserves to enable us to fully engage and consult with Londoners on road pricing. Now, these amendments are essential for London as we face difficult times ahead. We've worked hard to find every gap and possibility. We have found unspent money, reserves that could be utilised, and found new fair ways to raise money. We have thought creatively about how to guide our city out of the current crisis while building London's resilience for the challenges to come. Now more than ever, London needs the good ideas that the Greens have produced year on year for every budget, ideas that the Mayor more often than not later brings in himself. My colleague Sian Berry will second the Green Amendment, covering housing, homelessness and renters' rights, with some fresh thinking about new ways to find money to support Londoners. And one of these is aimed squarely at our key workers, those people working so hard for average incomes and to whom we owe so much right now. Importantly, it would give more of our key workers the chance to live in London again. Colleagues, you may remember that the London Chamber of Commerce told us in 2016 that the majority of our emergency blue light workers live outside of London and tasked us with examining this issue. We took this to heart. Sian researched the data and found that half of our police officers live outside of the city. We worked with the Royal College of Nursing after they told us that London's high cost of living was forcing nurses to move out of London. I hope you will listen and be impressed with the idea that we have to help them that Sian's going to talk about just now. I move the City Hall Greens Amendment and call on all the Assembly to vote for it. Thank you.